Today in the wood yard, we've got snowflakes the size of cows coming down. Here we go. Yes, it's snowing again. Supposed to do this all day today. Supposed to have either snow or rain or both. And my plan is that I'm going to cut on this pile, which is going to happen. And I thought I was going to have all day, but I only got a half a day. But I'll be able to get a bunch of it done. So all I got to do is go get the saws. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to start cutting right here. When I cut that direction, throw the rounds over there. So go get the saws. I'll be right back. Isn't it pretty? It's not. There it is. That was one tank. This stuff cuts like butter. It's wet, green, soft maple. It's just like cutting butter with a hot knife. And yeah, I could cut this whole pile today if I had someone to throw rounds for me to get them out of the way. Because it cuts so easy and so fast, I think I could cut this whole pile in one day. I know I can because I've done it in the past. I haven't done it for a few years now, but if I had someone to move the rounds out of my way and I could just keep cutting, oh, nice stuff. Now I know why people like, in the wood business, like soft maple. It cuts easy, it splits easy, it dries fast, and it sells. Good stuff. So that was one tank. On to number two. Well, as you can see, I have a little bit of a death wall going here. I know that's got to be 9 feet high. So I'm gonna bring some of this stuff down and roll some of these logs down here. They're gonna come and get me otherwise. I don't want to get got. Is that a word, to get got? It's a 2-word, I guess. So I'll just get this one out of here. And I think I can get some of this by hand. But it's gonna come down, so. Yeah, not looking pretty. I like it when they just roll down. When you get these twisted ones like this, it's kind of a bit of danger. Yeah, it's looking ugly. It's looking very ugly. So I think I'll get this one out of here first. There's a piece of hard maple here, it looks like. Ooh, hit the camera a little bit. There's a piece of cherry right here, which is perfectly fine. Cherry's good. Oh, look at this. Somebody put a ladder over here for me. Come on. That's better. Kind of solid, sort of solid. Let's get a couple of these high boys down here. If I have to bail, I'm going to be jumping backwards. Watch out for the camera. Now we're getting somewhere. There's a piece of oak right here. White oak. Another piece of oak right here, looks like. Yeah. Now I think it's safer. Except for maybe these really high couple up here. Ooh. Another piece of oak. Another one. There, those are all locked in pretty good. Show this one. Go, go, go. There we go. There. Now I can start cutting again. Ooh. Almost died right there. Alrighty, here we go. So I thought I'd do a little talking while I'm cutting here. When I roll the pieces down, like I did just a little while ago, I usually try to obviously start on the end and then work my way, up the pile. And when I'm cutting these pieces, obviously you got to be careful not to hit the ground. Sometimes I use my cant hook if I know it's a heavy piece that I need to get off the ground. Sometimes I just don't cut all the way through. I'll just cut part of the way, and I'll give it a kick, roll it over, and then cut the other side. But yeah, obviously you don't want to cut the ground, but it does happen from time to time. And like I always say, the hard part of the cutting is not the actual cutting. It's having all the rounds that you got to move because they're in your way, and you got to constantly be kicking them out of the way, or you've got to be chucking them so that you've got a place to stand. Because if you're standing on the rounds, once they're cut, they're much more easy to roll on you, and you can take a dive. I haven't fell yet, but I don't plan on it. But yeah, having your feet firmly planted on the ground, very important. And that saw cutting nice. Look at the chips. The saws are cutting fantastic today. Plus with this soft maple, it's cutting just fantastic. The guy that sharpened the chains did a very good job, just like he always does. I like it when they cut nice. When your saw cuts that good, that fast, it really is just a joy to cut, because you don't have to do any work. The saw does all the work. You just let the saw melt right through the wood. So yeah, I'm just cutting away here, and I think that when I get about a half a tank is when I generally will have to actually move rounds, because it starts to be too many and you're fighting them. Once in a while, if I get a pile that's at a good angle, where it's not a straight up and down wall that you're cutting into, if it's a good gentle slope, you can cut a lot more, because when you're cutting, it's not as dangerous because it's not as steep, and you can climb up the pile and cut, and it's much more solid too, so you're not dancing up there, so to speak. And when I cut on the logs, I usually just go to whatever the next closest cut is. Sometimes I'll cut a whole log all the way down and then go to the next log and cut that log all the way down. But usually I just cut whatever is the closest piece that I can cut. And obviously you're looking, excuse me, you're looking back, and you're looking to your left, you're looking to your right, and you're trying to cut the ones that are the easiest to get to, or the ones that you need to cut and then get out of the way so you can access the other ones. A lot of people say you shouldn't cut into a log pile, or they say it's dangerous. Yeah, I don't want to say it's dangerous. You just got to be really good with the tip of your saw. You got to know how to approach the piece. You got to remember you're cutting with the bottom of the chain, so you want to try to, if you're starting with the tip going in between two pieces, you've got to start kind of on the bottom of the tip of the bar, and then gradually let the saw work into between two pieces, so that you're not just jamming it in there and then having your tip kick back on you, which can happen. See, I just slicing away here. You can see how nice it's cutting. Like I say, it's just a real joy when your saw is cutting that good. Plus, these browns aren't very big. I mean, most of these are pretty small. When you're cutting on the big ones, it takes so much longer. You've got to work a little bit harder. It's harder on the big pieces also when you're cutting in a pile to see the backside. So a lot of times you're cutting, one that's out front, but you got to stick your bar in farther to cut the whole piece, and then sometimes you're cutting into the back, row of the next log in the pile. And sometimes if you ram in your tip of your bar into that piece you're cutting, going through it, you'll hit the back log behind it, and what happens is then you can get kickback, because it'll catch the end of it, just the tip of the bar, and it'll kick back on you. That's why you got to be hanging on. Makes a big difference. If you're not hanging on, you're going to have some problems. But here you can see I'm starting to do a little bit of climbing and dancing up on the pile there. And I always just try to make sure I get both my feet solid before I start running the saw. And if the pile starts moving a little bit, you got to obviously pay attention up above. I'm always looking to see how the pieces are locked together, what piece looks like it's safest to cut, which one is not going to roll down on you. And a lot of times when you're cutting in a pile like that, you start, especially on a small piece, when you start cutting, the saw itself, the teeth will grab a hold of that piece and it can start to roll the whole log towards you. So sometimes you got to use your foot to hold it or make sure it's locked into another piece. Here I'm just kind of cleaning up over on the side some of the little ones that are in the way, and just kind of working my way through the pile. And again, I try to do most of the groundwork first before I start climbing up. And again, I see all kinds of stuff as I'm watching this, like you guys are probably wondering, how come I didn't cut that one right in front there, right on the bottom of the screen there? There's one there, there's two of them actually, one full one and then one partial, and I just kind of walked away from. I don't know, because I just kind of go to where the next cut is that I see closest to me, and I work on that one. So anyway, sometimes you gotta roll some logs out like that just to get them out of your way, so you can get to the next piece. And sometimes I use the chainsaw itself to chuck pieces out of the way. I'll see if I can see one coming up here where I'll make a cut and a log will just, a round will just sit there. And if it's a small one, you can take the tip of the saw and you can either flick it out of the way if it's a real tiny one. But a lot of times I use the actual chain itself. I give it a little bit of gas and I can flick it out of the way too. I do that a lot. It just saves me from bending over. It's using the saw instead of my hand. A lot of times I'll hang onto the saw with one hand, reach down, grab a piece, and then chuck it out of the way. But then there's other times I will basically take the tip of the saw and give the saw a little bit of gas, and I can flick it out of the way. And it works good especially if you're on the end of the actual piece of wood, to where you can get the end cut, because the saw will grab it better, the teeth will, and you can flick it over to the side and get rid of it. So anyway, hopefully there's one in here coming up where you can see that. Here I'm just cutting down in. Remember, see how I tip the saw down in there? I'm doing that so that I can not hit other pieces. So you got to kind of always watch the tip of the saw. Just be paying attention that you're not going to be cutting into another piece. There you go. Well, I just kind of pushed that one out of the way, but sometimes I give it a little bit of gas. Sometimes they fall off like that. And don't go chasing it. Just stay where you are and keep cutting. Look at that beautiful man glitter there. See, when you're cutting, that's nice when they fall off like that, where they just kind of trickle off down. There, reaching inside, you cut one right in there. It fell down nicely. And again, the one there that's at an angle, you got to tip your saw to make sure you're making your cuts as even as possible, so you're not angling them. Not that that's a big deal, but when it comes to splitting later, you'll be glad you got nice flat ends. I'm cutting on the ends there. It's nice when they line up. Sometimes you can cut right through two pieces too. That's really nice. There I kind of got pinched, so there you go, my little flick I did there. See, I kind of hit it with the saw and give a little bit of gas at the same time, and you can flick the pieces right out of the way there. So that's kind of a nice thing. So I think that's enough cutting for now. We'll get back to some speed cutting here. Well, as you can see, this pile is a little taller than me. I'm saying it's got to be close to 10 feet up at the high, well, 9 feet, about 9 feet. And you can see I've got a pretty good wall started right here coming down. So all this stuff is going to come down. So I'm going to roll it down before it comes down and rolls on me, which I don't really want to have happen. I know it would be great video and you guys would love to watch that, but I'm not up for it. So far I have cut about 2.5 tanks, and I'm about a quarter of the way through, and it takes me just as long to throw the rounds out of the way as it does to cut. So if I had someone here, which is going to happen eventually, to chuck rounds for me, I know I could cut this whole thing easily in one day. This stuff cuts just fantastic. I love it. I like it a lot. Oh, we gotta go this way. Sorry about that. Come on, baby. That's the one I was worried about the most, because that's a big boy, bigger one. These are a little bit smaller, so these are no big deal. Oops, kind of hit the camera just a little there. That's better. And now, I think I can loosen up a couple of these. Uh-oh, watch out, camera, it's coming at you. I was afraid it was going to keep rolling, which is what happens a lot. That's better. I'm going to get that one way up on top because that'll roll down pretty good, I bet. Perfect. The plan is coming together. I'll go over here. Yeah, I don't like them when they do that. I'm going to go back over here and pull it around so it slides down better. Because when they do this, that end always swings around on you. Or me. There we go. That's better. Now let's see what else we can do up here. I bet if I pull this one out and looks like this one right here. Get a spot so I can jump out of here. Oh, it's locked in. There we go. Hate it when they do that. Get that one way up on top there, makes me nervous. But if I'm gonna die, you guys might as well watch. There's always one little piece that's locked. Right here. Can almost get it. Come on. Yikes. Yeah, if I can get this one way up here out of here, it'll feel much better. That's better. And if we get this one over here, that's not too shabby. Those are all locked in pretty good now, all the way up. I think we're good to cut again. Well, here is about 2.5 tanks, maybe 2 3/4. Two of the saws I ran till they were empty. One of them, I must have hit the ground. It was getting dull, so I just shut it off. Plus, I had to clear rounds off and bring down more logs, like you saw me just do. And so I piled all this stuff up here, and the logs are ready to be cut. And I took a little lunch break, and after that, I took the saws in, I touched them all up, tightened up the chains, sharpened them, took the rakers down just a smidge, and I just gassed them and oiled them up so they're ready to go. Time to attack the pile again. Here we go. So there I just cut only half a tank and I ran out of room because it's getting tight here, so I gotta keep clearing this stuff out because it's a high pile. So I just put gas right back into the same saw and put oil in. I'm just gonna cut with the same saw because it's razor sharp. I don't know if you noticed the wood chips. It's the good stuff. It's just cutting unbelievably good. It's so much fun when the saws are sharp and you got good wood like this, nice size stuff. It just cuts beautiful. This is fun. You should be here. Okay, back to cutting. Now that's what I call cutting. That was awesome. Because when I went in, I touched it up and I took the rakers down. Just one stroke, because it's a new chain. Oh my gosh. It just ate it up. That was fun. I think I can do a couple more tanks. But first I gotta get rid of this. That's the hard part. The cutting is the fun part. It's the chucking. I gotta hire some kids. Yeah, that was a whole tank I cut. So I just died up there. And by kicking the rounds off to the side back and forth, I was able to just keep eating at it. I think I'm almost halfway done. Let's take a look. Oh no, not halfway done. One more tank, I'll be halfway done. This stuff cuts so nice. It makes me hate oak and hickory because it cuts so much harder, so much heavier. This stuff is just beautiful. As my brother Kenny would call it, it's candy cane wood. It's just easy. So here we go, chucking time. Well folks, the cutting for today is done. I'd like to cut one more tank, but I don't have time. I cut almost 5 tanks and I'm about halfway, I think. If we look at the pile here, I don't know, because it went, yeah, it's probably real close to half. And I'm tired. That was actually enough. That was 5 tanks. I looked at the timer each time I was cutting, and then each time I would get done chucking. It takes me just as long to chuck the stuff all the way as it does to cut it. So if I had someone speedy helping me, I think I could get the whole thing done in not even a full day. I think about 7 hours I could probably cut the whole pile. So pretty good stack I got started there. So that was fun. I like it when it's nice cutting like that. That stuff's just beautiful. Whew. So tomorrow I'm going to my brother Eric, and we got a logging job to do at a buddy of his. He's got a whole bunch of trees we're gonna cut down, so that's where I'm going tomorrow, so you'll see me there tomorrow. And then a day after that, let's see, I'll probably be back here cutting on this, I think. And then a couple days after that, it's beaver trapping time. That's gonna be fun. You should come along. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for hitting the buttons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. back in the wood yard. I'm going to be here. You should be here. Good night, Irene.